Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. And today we're taking a look at something completely different. It's not DC, it's not Marvel, and it certainly isn't Star Wars. It's Hellboy from the David Harbour Hellboy movie. Say what you will about the film, but I think David Harbour's portrayal of Hellboy was pretty spot on, and I really liked the outfit, the prosthetics, and I did like some of the movie itself. Some, not all. Now I am curious, did you enjoy the Hellboy movie? Let me know down in the comments below. Now of course I picked up my Hellboy from toyswonderland.com and it made it here in record time. I'm pretty sure between release and delivery it was only 2 days. That is insanely quick. The postage service that I personally always go with is DHL. They never fail to deliver. Now if you do like seeing really early Hot Toys and third-party content, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as brand new content goes live on the channel. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. And here of course we have the box art for Hellboy himself, wearing his floating crown and the big horns. I really like this piece of box artwork. There is fire literally everywhere, which is of course on brand for Hellboy. You can also see an image. I'm pretty sure that's David Harbour in the prosthetics and all the makeup, not the figure itself, but I could be wrong because the figure does look really darn lifelike. Hellboy on the front here, Hellboy on the side, and some legal information on the back. It's been a while since we've seen this style of box from Hot Toys with the cover that slips off the top, but no inner artwork. There's this sort of mid-slip section here with an image again of Hellboy, and you can see his gun extends up the top there. It's a darn shame that the movie wasn't just a little bit better, because I would love to have seen David Harbour portray Hellboy once again, because as I said, the look of Hellboy himself was pretty darn fantastic. Now I have to say, right off the bat, getting this guy out of the box, he weighs a ton. I don't know why there is so much weight in this guy, but he's a hefty, chunky boy. And yes, you can see a lot of seamless skin on the body here, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a metal endoskeleton on this guy. That's how heavy he really does feel. But first in-hand impressions, aside from the weight, is that he looks really, really striking. Now you can see there is a bunch more stuff in the box below, so what we are going to do now is get all of the accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. And here we have all of the accessories that come with Hellboy. As you can see, there is a hell of a lot of stuff here. I am super impressed with how much this guy really does come with. I was not expecting it. Let's start off by taking a look at the display base first. It's that newer style Hot Toys display base. Hellboy printed on the front here. I do think this is a sticker, but it's a classy one. You can see the Hellboy logo rather than just them printing with white font Hellboy on the front. I much prefer this. If we're not getting metal nameplates, this is the next best thing. I love the fiery ground motif. Now, up the back here, they've done something rather interesting. You can see there are actually two separate points in which you can attach the crotch grab at the back or more towards the center, because that would actually put Hellboy right in the center. I think they've done that to aid in balancing him, because he is rather heavy. They don't call out exactly why that's the case in the instructions, so I am of course just guessing. Next up, let's take a look at the swap out outfit. This you might have thought was a t-shirt, but cleverly it isn't. It's actually a swap out vest. It says the BPRD on the front there. You do have that logo, and it is relatively dirty and grimy. I really like how it looks. That also carries on to the logo itself. It's a really nice touch. Now for the jacket, this piece is really awesome. It's super lightweight and very thin, especially on the sleeves. You can see how thin that is. Light is actually passing through it. That'll help when you're trying to put it on the body. There is a wire around the bottom edge on both sides and also in the collar, so you can very nicely fold it over. I like the material that they've chosen for the collar as well. In fact, this coat is a really nice piece. All the buttons are uniquely weathered, which is a really cool thing that they absolutely didn't have to do. Super impressed with the coat. Now let's talk about some of the fiery accessories, starting off with, of course, the crown. Everyone was wondering how on earth is this going to stay on his head. They've done it with a translucent piece that attaches as part of his little ponytail or little bun, his man bun at the back there. Just plugs in, and the cool thing is his head sits about there, so you don't really see the clear connector. Super simple, yet super effective. I'm really impressed with how that works. You do have a swap out man bun. The cool thing is, this is really rubbery, so this shouldn't break off. If you do actually happen to drop him when you are posing him, then this shouldn't break. It's a nice soft material, so that's really awesome. He does come with his swap out horns. These are exceptional. I love the paint applications, and the sculpt is super sharp. They literally just peg in to his forehead. You'll see him wearing these at the end of the video, so make sure you are staying tuned right to the very end of the video to see 3 unique poses for Hellboy in 3 different looks, because these are well worth the wait, in my personal opinion. Now, he does come with a couple of weapons, first of which being, I do believe this is their take on the Samaritan. I really like how it looks. It's a big honkin' gun. You do have a rotating barrel, which is a really nice little feature. I don't believe it actually comes out, it simply just rotates. It's painted fairly basically though, there's no weathering or scuffing or dirt or grime at all on this, whereas on the second one, there is a lot of scuffing and weathering. I really like how this one looks. It's a nice, sculpted and detailed piece, and the paint applications really do fool you into thinking this is a real metal piece. He does come with this little gadget right here, which is referred to in the instructions as a communicator. It's got the BPRD logo on there and a little clip on the back to help you attach it to his belt. Now, in order to hide the single seam, the single wrist joint that you'll see on the left side, you have 2 options. Either this wrapped up rosary bead effect, or this little bracelet. You can basically take your pick. It does have a cross on one side. They're both nicely detailed, sculpted, and painted. Now, he does come with 3 versions of his right hand of doom. You do have this one being the articulated one. They're all nice and soft, so they go on relatively easily. They are exceptionally well painted. More on that when we look at the figure himself. You do get a few hands, but you only get one that's been wrapped up like this with the little chain around the outside. I really like how this one is done. Actually, I thought this was a real chain when I first unboxed it, because that's how realistic it does look, and it's painted really nicely as well. The other stuff that he comes with are mostly effect pieces, but they are absolutely exceptional. This one we actually have seen previously. This is the lightning effect that came with the Emperor. It's a super nice, vibrant, punchy reddish orange. You are meant to use it with Excalibur. You simply insert it, I say as I'm struggling to do it on camera. It is a bit of a task to do. The instructions don't really help all that much, but once you have it on there, it's a neat enough effect. The only issue for me is it's super long, so it kind of can't really work its way into my display, but if you have the room for it, it's a really nice effect. Now that we have Excalibur out here, we may as well take a look at it. It's a super nicely done piece. There's chipping throughout the entire blade. It is super sharp, so do be careful, and it's painted to an exceptionally high standard, especially down here at the hilt. It's got this sort of gold, brushed, dirty look, and there is weathering in all of the crevices, a nice oil wash over the top. The same thing can be said for the lit up version. This thing is jaw-droppingly beautiful. I love the flames. It's completely translucent. The light passes through it and picks it up and makes it illuminate a treat. It does have a really nice sharp blade. My Hellboy 110% will be displayed with this version of Excalibur. You can see a peg on the inside there. You may be thinking, what on earth is that for, Justin? Well, on this finger, there's actually a peg hole. So when you go ahead and insert Excalibur in his hand here, you can peg it in. That's done because if you have it upside down in his hand, the weight, if it wasn't pegged in, may actually pull it out because the hand is a softer style plastic. The only other stuff he does come with are a bunch of flame effects, but they are really nice. We've seen these before with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ghost Rider figure. You can just simply place them around the display base, and it's a really neat effect of having a bunch of flames on there, like a diorama style piece. I'm pretty sure you know exactly what I'm referring to, and it looks really, really good. I'm super impressed with pretty much everything that comes in the box with Hellboy. And here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that, but I have taken the liberty of installing his undervest and the outer jacket. Not my preferred look for Hellboy, we'll get to that in just a second, but overall it comes together really nicely. There's something about a super high quality figure like this guy, and you'll know exactly what I mean when you take him out of the box for the very first time. He's hefty. I do still think that there is a metal endoskeleton on the inside. We'll explore that a little bit further throughout the course of this video. But he's hefty. He really does feel like you're holding a miniature Hellboy. I know it's weird to say, but it really is true. The paint applications are absolutely sensational throughout the entire torso, onto the arms, and that head sculpt. That's pretty much the Hellboy from the movie through and through. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of 3D scanning going on here, but I know Hot Toys better than that. It's all handcrafted and hand sculpted before they send it in to mass production, but that's how good it really does look. And I'm by no means a huge fan of this version of Hellboy or this particular movie, but translated into figure format, I don't think anyone will argue with me as to how good this guy does look. What we are going to do now, though, is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. And here we have him up close and personal, and as you can see, I have chosen to leave off the black shirt and the coat that goes over the top that you saw in the previous clip, because I wanted to give you a look at all of the detail on the body, but we'll get to that in just a second. Let's start off by talking about this magnificent head sculpt. I can actually see the David Harbour likeness in there. I know it's crazy to say that because he's wearing so much makeup and a lot of prosthetics, but I can seriously see it. It looks really good. It looks exactly like it did in the film. Love it or hate it. Now, in terms of how the hair is done, you can see it is a sculpted piece, but it is a soft enough material that will allow a little bit of flexibility. And I do emphasize a little bit. But just in terms of the paint applications, the red looks really good. It's a nice deep red, and the eyes have this super punchy yellow vibrant gloss. It looks really, really lifelike, and honestly, I'm super impressed. Now onto the body itself. This thing is a work of art. There is so much sculpted in detail here. I think this may be that newer type of rubbery style material that we saw on Shuri, for instance, and that can have a lot of detail and paint applications over the top, whereas on previous rubbery style bodies, they couldn't quite get the paint to look as natural as it does on a sculpted piece. But here, just take a look at all of that. That looks fantastic in my personal opinion. You can see a bunch of musculature, you've got vein work, you've got hair. It is chock full of amazing paint applications. Now moving down to the belt section, this for me on the previous Hellboy was a right pain, but here it isn't. It's all sculpted. It's a rubbery style plastic. It's a lot firmer than what we'd get out of a pleather. It's not going to disintegrate, whereas in my previous one, it did. This is a huge upgrade, in my personal opinion, based off the previous Hellboy. Honestly, this might be worth the price of admission alone. I know, crazy to say that, but no, seriously, it is that fantastic. It's a huge upgrade. There's a lot of sculpted in detail here. You got the rosary sort of beads here, a little cross, and it does sort of move just a little bit as well, and a bunch more stuff, including a horseshoe. Now let's talk about this. This is of course the right hand of doom, and it looks really, really good. This is the articulated finger hand because there are wires in there. I like the way it's painted. Some people were saying it looks a little bit too orange, but I really like how it comes across. It's a nice contrast to the body, and also it's really nicely painted. There's weathering, there's dirt and grime. It looks fantastic. Speaking of dirt and grime, you can see that on the pants there is a dirt wash as well. They're not just super crisp and clean. One of the cool things are that his body doesn't really feel like it has too much padding, so you should be able to get a relatively large amount of articulation out of the legs themselves. I think they've done that consciously because a lot of people won't be moving the torso. It's seamless, of course you won't be. So let's make up for it with the legs. The pants are suitably baggy and suitably weathered. Now moving on to the boots. As you can see, they are one fixed sculpted piece. More on that later in the video. They are at least nicely sculpted and very subtly weathered on the bottom. The final thing to talk about is the tail. It's made out of a similar material to the body. It is nicely sculpted, and of course there is a wire inside, so you can get all kinds of Hellboy tail poses. That is a really nice touch. Just quickly before we move on, I wanted to show you what the jacket and the shirt look like on Hellboy up close. Now I have to say, there's something about this shirt that's just not working for me. I don't know what it is. It looks great and it functions really nicely. More on that later in the video, but it's potentially a little bit too high and a little bit too baggy and thick. It just kind of makes him look like he's got no neck. The hair already hides enough of the neck. You don't really need to do that, in my opinion, with the shirt. I may rock the trench coat, but I don't think I personally will be using the shirt itself. The trench coat I really like. It's a super nice lightweight material. That wire, of course, that you saw earlier is around the bottom and in the collar. It looks really good, and it's super easy to put on. You literally pull off both hands, including this piece, and then it just slides over. It's a really nice, straightforward application. Honestly, I don't think this is my personal preferred look. I'd, as I said, either go without the shirt, just shirtless underneath the jacket, or fully shirtless and show off that amazing seamless body. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the new Hellboy on the left compared to, not the original, this is actually my third-party version. I do believe it's made by a company either called Fire Toys or something like that. Anyway, it's third-party, you can buy it online. It's not really all that high quality, and especially standing next to this new Hellboy, he is so much better. I really do like the new Hellboy design. I'm by no means a Hellboy aficionado. I haven't read the comics. In fact, my only real exposure to Hellboy has been through the films themselves, but I still recognize that it's a pretty comic book accurate design. I really like the way it looks. The body proportions are a little bit big and chonky on the upper torso. Then it kind of looks like he's got smaller, shorter legs, and that is very comic book accurate. I really like how it comes across. He is, though, really, really tall, especially compared next to this original one, and I have to say, I much prefer this new design. Now I know, this is a super weird comparison, but here we have the Season 2 version, my custom Beskar Mando on the right, and Hellboy, obviously. You can see he's huge, he's so much taller than Mando here. I don't exactly know what body they're using, I think it's entirely new, but I love the size. He's a big boy, and honestly, it works for Hellboy. This guy is super imposing, and honestly, I don't think it's one that a lot of people had on their radar, but now, hopefully you're seeing him on camera, you all will realize how good he really is. Just going over articulation on Hellboy. Now bear in mind, this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now as you can see, I have left off all of the extra clothing, just because I want to show you how the body moves and what it looks like when it's unhindered. Now starting off with the head itself, it is on a fixed neck, so that means you aren't getting a hell of a lot of range of motion, plus the hair is all sculpted, so same thing, you won't really get a hell of a lot of range. The arms themselves go out to about there, but not much creasing whatsoever going out. Going forwards, pretty much to there before you start getting a little bit of bunching, but the way that it bunches up looks incredibly natural, kind of like real human flesh. I'm very impressed. You do have a butterfly joint up there as well, a single bend at the elbow, which looks a little bit unsightly, and it is a really heavy ratchet. There's also a swivel there as well. For this hand, as it goes flying off, you do have a regular 1/6 scale style wrist peg. Now for the other side, there is a ball joint up the top, but for one of the big chunky hands, you do have wires in the fingers. That's a nice touch and something that honestly I wasn't expecting. Now for the torso, there is a single crunch up here, but then also it's pegged in to the legs. That means you get a hell of a lot of crunch forward and back, and swivel and pivot without it actually being a fully rubber body. So the only parts that are rubber, the upper torso, the legs are actually a separate piece. They go forward to about there, they go out pretty much unhindered. That's really impressive. Swivel at the thigh, double bend there at the knee, and unfortunately no split cut boot design, but you still get a little bit of pivot. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things about Hellboy. The first annoying thing isn't that magnificent head sculpt, it's how difficult these little horn pieces are to remove. They're not magnetic, they are pegged in, and there is no groove to actually really fit your fingernail underneath. You just have to do it with sheer friction alone. It's a real challenge. I can't even really do it on camera here. There you go, as it goes flying off. I wish this was magnetic. It would have been a nice simple way, just slide it off. But unfortunately, it's a big honkin' peg, and as you saw, it's quite challenging to remove. The second annoying thing is, of course, the boots. There is no ankle articulation, or barely any. There's a slight teeny amount of pivot, but they're a one fixed solid piece. They could have been either a split-cut boot design. There's even a fold integrated right there. They could have done it really nicely, but unfortunately, they decided not to do it. The third annoying thing, and I don't know if it's an issue just on mine, but for some reason, this arm goes really nice and flush down by his side here, whereas this one literally doesn't. It just springs back out. Is it potentially due to this arm having the big honkin' piece down the bottom here? They wanted to show that it kind of can't really go any further down to his body, but if this side can do it, really don't understand why this side cannot. The first cool thing about Hellboy is how easy it is to swap on this shirt, because technically it's not a shirt, it's a tank top with snap fasteners on the underside here. I don't know if you've ever tried putting on an outfit over a seamless body. It's a right challenge, but this one is super simple. You unsnap the sides, pull off the head, and it literally just slips over and then re-buttons up. Super simple, and I really like it. The second cool thing about Hellboy is that, yes, I was correct. All of that weight comes from an internal metal skeleton. It's a metal endoskeleton, and it really does work for this guy. The joints are super stiff and super sturdy, and he definitely has a lot of weight. He feels like a die-cast Iron Man figure. And for Hellboy, that's rather fitting. The third cool thing is the cardboard backdrop. It's super simple, it's a lot of fire, but it really works quite nicely with his accessories. He comes with a lot of flame effects, and the big honkin' horns. He's gonna look fantastic standing in front of this backdrop. Just wrapping up on Hellboy. Now, this figure has taken me completely by surprise. I didn't know what to expect going in. I certainly didn't know that they were going to be pouring this much love and attention to detail into getting this version of Hellboy so right. It's weird to me. Hot Toys focus on the weirdest stuff, and they get it done to an exceptionally high standard, and they've done that here. They've used a brand new, as far as I'm aware, endoskeleton technology here with the rubber overlay over the top that I've never seen them implement to this high of a standard ever before. Yes, they have done it with figures like Wonder Woman, but we all know how thin that rubber style body was. It would crack over time. This one feels incredibly sturdy, and I don't think, as long as you're not going too crazy with it, that you're going to have that much trouble with it. I personally love how this figure turned out. I am curious though, let me know what you think of this particular version of Hellboy in the comments below. Now, I won't be rocking mine with the shirt and the outer jacket. I'll be going either with the outer jacket and a shirtless look, or entirely shirtless with the big horns and the crown. That's my preferred look for Hellboy, holding Excalibur. That'll be totally badass. But he still looks really good wearing the full attire as well. Honestly, something could be said for people out there who wanted to get two and have both looks on display. I wouldn't argue with you there, because that would be a really nice display option. But you'd really have to love this version of Hellboy. In fact, you probably really have to be a huge fan of the film as well. For me, one is more than enough, and he's a totally badass figure. Trust me, if you're on the fence, get off the fence, go ahead and pick this guy up. He is well worth it, in my personal opinion. But don't just take my word for it. You've seen this figure in his various outfits throughout the course of this video. I'm sure by now, if you were even slightly considering getting him, you've probably already made up your mind just based on seeing him in the video, because yeah, he looks that darn good. Now, I picked up mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is, of course, in the description below. They do have 12-month installment plans if you're a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, while you are down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.